Hello and welcome to another one of those videos where I have a yap about all the things that the Tinto devs have been talking about over the previous week. This is the 51st week of the Tinto talks, and next Friday is actually the anniversary, if you will, of this Tinto Talks Project Caesar project. And I think it's gone remarkably well. Of course, I'm a little biased, one might say, as I've been covering this the whole time and really enjoying myself doing so, and it's been very good for me. So I hope you guys have been enjoying it too. I'm not going to stop making these videos either. So if you want to stick around, come along with me for the ride as we explore all there is to do about Project Caesar, then hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 30k subscribers before I'm conscripted to fight in the AI wars of 2026. So yeah, let's try to get to that milestone as soon as possible. Anyway, let us start, of course, as we always do, with the Saturday building. This is an Age of Absolutism building, the Fine Cloth Manufactory. Burgers are the guys staffing it. Requires either silk or cloth as your base good, and you can enhance it with dyes or dyes, and I believe this is silver. And then you get yourself some fine cloth. Very nice. This is, the second tier in the chain of cloth manufactories. We have the Tailors Guild, then we have the Fine Cloth Manufactory, and then eventually we will unlock the Fine Cloth Mill. Fine cloth is traditionally a marker of status for the elites and wealthy classes. The Fine Cloth Manufactory focuses on the crafting of these valuable textiles using cloth or silk. We have a couple of responses as well to this. Does none mean there is no requirements to build in a location? That's right here. None means there are no modifiers given. Fair enough. And then we have here, I find it weird that these buildings only employ one type of pop. Seems like a major oversight. So, of course, this building is staffed by 200 burghers. There's no slaves, there's no peasants, there's no nobles, and all of that. It's very reminiscent of Imperator, where a location's population has these floating averages where people would just demote and promote depending on where the ratio is at. Sure, but as Johan says here, they're only doing it this way to make a system where the game actually runs, which I feel like, as far as justifications go, this is a pretty decent justification. I want this game to run well. I don't want it to run like absolute ass. And judging by the comments that I get on a pretty regular basis, both on here and when I talk about it on Twitter and other places, there are a lot of people who are worried, mostly looking at the map, that they're just going to be incapable of running the game, of actually having any kind of performance whatsoever. And anything that the devs can do to, reduce performance impacts, make the game run smoother, I think is good to do, as long as it is not, detrimental to the experience. And I think this is one of those cases where it is perfectly reasonable to have just a single pop type in various buildings. And is that entirely accurate? No, especially when we get to the age of like manufactories, maybe plantations, then you could expect, realistically, with the mechanics that are available, having a small group of nobles and the staff being a lot of peasants or slaves. And sure, that would be more historically accurate, more immersive, let's say, but at the cost of a large hit to performance, I don't think is really worth it. But anyway, that is the Fine Cloth Manufactory, and now we move on to the Germany rework. This was, of course, a huge dev diary. We had, of course, the Tinto talks, or the Tinto maps for Germany quite a while ago. This is the feedback to it, and seeing all the implementation of our feedback, which I've very much enjoyed. I always do. And we have here the government type map mode. Yes, this is the government type map mode. We can see republics, we can see monarchies, and we can see theocracies. And I think that is the only three types that are in the region. Makes sense, and this is going to be a pretty useful map mode for, I think, honestly, choosing who to play. Less so when it comes to actual play, but it is nice to see it. And yeah, spattering republics all around the place. More so in the south, especially in Italy, of course, than in the north. But yeah, love to see maps like this. How many members of these different categories are there? So Prince Elector, Archbishop Elector, Imperial Peasant Republic, Free Imperial Seat, blah, 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 blah. And what colors are they on the map? What's the difference between the lime green and the slightly duller green many of the OPMs have? Or are they all just free seas? What's the dark blue, etc., etc., etc.? So they'll talk about the different HRE categories in a Tinto Talks devoted to the HRE. And as for the colors, well, I have this pulled up here, and I can pull that up right there as well. Lime green, so here, this Zurich, Bern, that's the free imperial cities. Duller green are other republics, so the M and Hus and B and frickin' this one over here. Dark blue are the imperial prelates, so theocracy, so Fulda and that kind of thing, Aquileia. And then the grey are the regular imperial prince members. Also, what is mines? Dark blue, grey, irregular imperial prince. So Trier, what are Trier and mines? Is that electors, I think? He doesn't say it here, but I believe that is electors. No, electors is the light blue. I still don't know what this blue is. Cologne. Maybe this is the theocracies. Yeah, I think this darker gray is the theocracies. So I had this whole thing pulled up, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll make it so that I have, you know, this open, and I'll have this open at the same time. It'd be real cool. We'll be able to see what we're talking about, but we didn't. We did not manage it. We did not manage to get it. Because Aquileia, I don't think that is a theocracy, is it? And Fulda, I don't think that's a theocracy. Actually, we can just check. Aquileia, we'll go back to here. No, we'll go to here. Oh no, Aquileia is a theocracy. Okay, my bad. Cologne is what? Cologne is also a theocracy. So they are both different types of theocracies. Helpful. Very, very helpful. I understand very little. But as far as feedback came, when it came to the Germany feedback, there actually wasn't a whole lot more than this. Nothing like that I thought was like super important to show in a video. So that is actually all we have for that. And we move on to the Bavarian Tinto talks, or Tinto flavors. And here there's a little bit more. So starting off, you click some events and the unification happens for free. That's a little bit underwhelming. That's a fair point. That is a fair point, but that is not how it happens. There are some variables that need to happen. So, for example, Henry the 14th of Lower Bavaria needs to die soon enough because of the leprosy, so that his heir is underage, and then the Wittelsbach Palatinate branch becomes extinct, etc. But they wanted to show the narrative content path that is possible to happen, so a lot of things that they have done here is through the console. And that's why there's also been a lot of funky stuff going on, and that's another comment that I'll bring up in a bit. So it is possible to do it this way, but it's not going to be every game that you play as the Bavarians that this happens, because sometimes Henry will live long enough that his heir becomes of age. Sometimes the Palatinate branch does not come extinct, so they don't get annexed either. So you're not going to have the same experience every time you play. I'm surprised Bavaria doesn't form around the same timeline as in EU4, or does it? So they have more content for Bavaria around the Age of Absolutism and Age of Revolutions, and also more dynamic stuff like getting the electorate, but they're not showing all the content available in Tinto Flavor, just some. This, I think, is important. Definitely, they're not going to show everything. I'm glad they're not showing everything. I still want to be surprised and find new things when I play these games, and play these tags. But just because it's not shown doesn't mean it's not going to be in the game. I think that is something we need to keep in mind. I haven't really finished reading it, but I couldn't stop myself. Please don't put a period or full stop if you are English or British-speaking Englishness after the Roman numerals, especially indicating monarchs. I know it was the norm centuries ago, but it isn't now. It's driving Tisea crazy. It is the German standard, and that's why it appears this way, and it's only for rulers of any culture in the German culture group. So here, if obviously this is William, but if this was William the Fourth or something, apparently there is a full stop after the Roman numeral for 4. Okay, I guess. There's a follow-up as well. But the text is in English, so why do we have the German standard for it? They're incorporating this type of language flavor in a bunch of instances, such as the parliament names, etc. Thinking that I shouldn't have clicked that. God damn it. No, no, go back to my comment. No. Balls. Okay, sorry about that. Accidentally clicked a button. Yeah, so they're incorporating that type of language flavor in a bunch of instances, such as the parliament names. They're going to have a game rule to have everything in standard English and another for this kind of flavor. I like that. I like that there is going to be game rules for this kind of thing. I have said multiple times, and I'm going to say it again. I like having Latinized, localized names on things. If I am forming Japan, I would be very happy if it was Nippon, because that is what the Japanese call their own nation. I would be very happy if forming Germany had it be forming Deutschland. I think that is really cool. I like that kind of thing. It'd be cool if it was München instead of Munich. It would be cool if it was Köln instead of Cologne. That kind of thing I really, really like. And, of course, Empire of the Romans instead of Byzantium, because Byzantium is a bad name. Let's move on. If we select the second option, this may happen. This is a quote, and it is showing off this event. So, shouldn't it be the first option with the treaty being preserved and therefore Bavaria getting a chance to reunite the electorate? Strange the event mentions the death of the Bavarian emperor, etc., etc. This is what I was talking about before. This is a case of forcing stuff through the console commands to show people events, and then funky stuff happens because of that. This won't happen in a normal game where, you know, events are showing the wrong names in the wrong places, because this isn't how it's naturally happening. So Pavia here saying as well that for the Treaty of Pavia, the second event is actually a potentially much later follow-up of the first option, and the second option grants a CB. It happens if the Palatinate line does die out, like stated in the first event, but he forced it through the console command to show it here. That's like 90% of the oddities that happen in any event shown, including broken localization. So, for example, the error guy, let me see if I can find that real quick. The Emperor of Error or something along those lines, I remember being a thing. Yeah, it's in here somewhere, but you just have to take my word for it. I guess I say you're gonna have to take my word for it, and then I keep looking. So screw it. Whatever. I'm gonna stop now. But yeah, that's the way. That's the reason that stuff is happening. We have here another comment. Since it seems you renamed it, what is the full name of the Palatinate? The official name was the Electorate of the Palatinate. Only after the Golden Bull of 1356. Before that, it was the County Palatinate of the Rhine, so is there a dynamic change of the name? So the way that it works right now is that it is dynamic. The country name itself is Rhine. Okay, I did not know that. That's really cool. There is a dynamic prefix, which is Palatinate, and then you get the electoral prefix on top of that. It doesn't work exactly fine in all cases. They have to polish it a bit, but I think that it's a good example of how our country dynamic naming system works. Awesome. I think that's really cool. Having dynamic names based on what is going on in your political situation, becoming an elector, becoming, being upgraded, if you will. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I always thought that it was the Palatinate bit, which was the name, and the rest was stuff added on. But it seems like the Palatinate part is like a prefix of sorts. So yeah, no, really, really cool. Really cool. Pavia, please. I can't know what these are. I'm going to explode. Sorry, if I can't know. I think we need to look at what he's talking about. I remember it is... All right, yes. Some freaking new icons. We saw the beeswax. Pottery is another one that is coming. And basically, Johan is going to talk about the changes coming from the community feedback in a few weeks from now. Essentially, the reason that this is going to be in the community feedback, or changes coming from community feedback, is because these things, like the spices being added, is directly coming from community feedback. Beeswax, directly coming from community feedback. People said that these things should be in the game. Here are the reasons why we think these should be in the game, and lo and behold, they have been added to the game. So I'm looking forward to the community feedback post that we're going to get in, a few weeks. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Please tell me that I'll be able to steal the various works of art associated with the Holy Roman Emperor you show above in a war and bring them to London. As one of our British co-workers just told me, it's not stealing, it's making sure that a cherished, valuable items can be seen by anyone in a museum or performing a service. And of course, you know, just a second. I just need to do that right quick. Don't worry about that. That's just for me. That's just for me. I'm going to be using that. But yeah, no, it's funny. I do like the idea of stealing cultural works of art, and especially taking the imperial regalia would be very, very funny. And I imagine that should essentially serve as a reclamation CB until the end of the game, honestly. Do the works of art associated with the Holy Roman Emperor change hands with the election of each emperor? Yes, with each election, they are moved to the capital of the new emperor if it's different from the former. Cool, awesome, that is very much appreciated and wanted. Yeah, awesome. But now we move on to the subject dev diary, the Tinto talks, and the responses that Johan is giving to that. Will vassal swarms still be a thing that is viable if done in Project Caesar? Johan here saying, it depends. There is no magical plus X gold and X manpower for any country like EU4 has. So if you weren't aware, every country has a base income, I think it's 3 ducats, and a base manpower of 3,000. And that is what makes vassals good, especially OPM vassals, because that base amount is more than you are going to be getting from that province if you're owning it directly before, like, the age of, you know, soldiers' households and fully built stuff. So that's why vassal swarms were very strong, especially HRA vassal swarm was insane. But there is no base amount in EU5, which I think is a big, big deal. It does change things a lot. I do think that vassal swarms will be viable still in EU5, not least because of control situations. You know, if you have vassals on the outer edge of your nation, you know, where you're not going to be able to get exert enough control because of proximity, having those areas be controlled by vassals so that they have the good proximity, the good control over their own lands, you're probably going to get more benefits out of them, even if there is no magical base amount of resources that they get. Another reason that EU4 had really good vassals is because it's an extra mana pool, right? That's something that EU5 doesn't have mana. So yeah, it's another reason that they were really strong, and that's no longer there. I have a question about the dev diary on Epidemics. So I know it's not really related to this dev diary, but it is an interesting question and an interesting answer. So I'm going to add it in here anyway. Is the game currently playable as an American nation, where the fact that epidemics decimate our populations, it's quite literally the opposite of decimation. To decimate something is to take away 1/10. What happened to the Americas is 9/10. So it's quite literally the opposite. And I'm fully aware. I am absolutely 100% guaranteed to get comments saying, no, Lambert, decimate meant 9/10. You're wrong. Historically, it was 1/10. And the reason I know I'm going to get comments because I got them before the last time I pointed this out, that decimate was 1/10, and I got a bunch of comments ignorantly claiming I was wrong. I'm not wrong. Learn your history. Moving on. But yeah, epidemics will obliterate our populations, and the European armies are much more developed, and does it make these countries, in theory, unplayable from a certain point? And how do you go about balancing? You don't. Almost all of them are societies of pops that are technically not playable, but for those nations that are playable, the pestilence and European invasions makes their gameplay sometimes as challenging, like playing Elden Ring blindfolded. That doesn't sound fun at all. Yeah, I worry for the people who like natives. I know they're not exactly the largest group of people when it comes to EU4, at least. Native enjoyers rise up individually because there's not a whole lot of you. But I worry that you're not going to get the game that you want. It's going to be a lot of cope. But hey, you know what? Some people are masochists. Some people enjoy that. Some people have pain fetishes. I really need to move off this topic. Maybe you'll like it. I don't know. It's not going to be for me, though. I'm almost certainly not going to enjoy playing as Native Americans, mostly because of this. But hey ho, maybe there will be something in here to show me that I am wrong. How much control will we have over our subjects' armies during wartime? Can we control them like our own armies, like in Victoria 2, you can do that? Or will they be completely autonomous, like EU4? Does it vary significantly based on subject type? Currently, it's entirely autonomous. I would argue that there should be differences based on subject type. I like this idea. I like this idea a lot. Having a very closely integrated subject, I could definitely see there being a way to control their armies directly. I think that would be really cool. Maybe even if it's just, this game has a levy system, so maybe especially in the early game, when you are raising levies, you can also raise levies from your subjects' territories. That would be a really simple way of doing it. That'd be really cool. But yeah, having multiple different ways to interact with subjects would be awesome. And like I said, Victoria 2 has it that if you are calling your subjects to war, you can, click on their country, Diplo screen, and then say that you want to control their armies, and they essentially become your armies to move around and control and such. And that is really, really cool. It is a really neat feature of that game. And I kind of wish that it was on EU4 as well, not going to lie. But either way, cool. Some information there. Getting the cores of integrated subject count sounds very, very strong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't cores require you to either assimilate or accept the population of a location? So will integrating Brittany as France grant you the cores on all the Breton land, even if you don't accept the culture? No. This is something that people were worried about. I got some comments on this in my Dev Diary video and also over on my Discord. There's a link to my Discord in the description below if you wish to join it as well. Yeah, this would be very strong. Vassals would become very strong because it's a lot harder to core things in EU5, and therefore if you're annexing vassals and getting those free cores, then that'd be so much stronger. But no, that is not how it works. It only becomes integrated for France. Any core or integrated moves to being integrated for the overlords. So it's kind of worded badly, I feel. Unless I'm just completely misreading it, but my interpretation of this is that when France annexes Brittany, they gain Breton as an integrated pop type, and then cores will come later. If I'm understanding that correctly, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you can, maybe you can read Swanglish a bit better than I can, and you can let me know if I'm reading this wrong. So yeah, what do you interpret this as? Let me know in the comments, because this is slightly confusing for me. But anyway, moving on. Can you transfer all types of subjects via war? No, depends on the type. I would say colonial nations should not be just transferable, just straight up. It should be, a conquest thing for that. But otherwise, marches, vassals, that kind of thing probably should be transferable. I don't think personal unions should be transferable either, although maybe, personal unions are not subjects. I keep needing to get that out of my EU4 brain. But yeah, no, depends on the type is a good answer. Rather than independence, is there a way for a subject to willfully become the subject of another state? For example, if Flanders asks England for help against their overlord, France, and in return becomes a vassal of England. Yes, you can always ask to become a vassal of a more powerful country. I guess this is basically what he's saying is Flanders should become independent and then ask England to become their vassal, which is not exactly the thing that Deadly Pancakes was asking here, but in a roundabout way, I guess it works. The AI is never going to do that, though. And an interesting comment here as well. One of the only ways to survive for more than a decade as Granada is to become a vassal, I assume, of Morocco, which is a little sus, no? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not how it happened historically. Historically, Granada was basically just defending itself from Castilian invasions, Morocco helping. But it wasn't a vassal state of Morocco. Maybe this is just like the easiest path to succeed as Granada, is to become a vassal of Morocco. But the idea that it would be impossible to survive as Granada without that is a little bit disappointing. and I hope that's not the case. Like, maybe just become an ally of Morocco. Like, surely that would be enough, no? But either way, that is all I have for you for today. I hope you have enjoyed this Tinto Yap session that we have just had. If you would like to experience more Tinto yapping, then subscribe to the channel and stick around, because I'll have another video for you on Wednesday, unless something else interesting crops up in the next couple of days. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.